Here we go.
How much of my shirt can you see?
I can see the whole thing. You can actually come in a little bit. Okay, perfect. Okay, why are you here tonight?
I am here tonight in solidarity with the FIU 7.
And what happened today?
Well, Occupy FIU was trying to hold a music event. You know, we wanted to find a way to connect with the student body on a different level than politics. You know, just like an excuse to get together. So we had a whole bunch of bands lined up, ready to play. We had a nice location out you know, in the outdoors that students could see us as they walked to classes, etc. And essentially the campus police and administration did not want us to hold this event. The event was being organized and run by FIU students. They didn't want us to hold the event, and they threatened us many, many times that if we did start playing music that we were going to be arrested. So we were trying to find some way to like have our event without offending the administration, and it wasn't exactly working. And before the arrests happened, they were trying to get us to move to the Graham Center lawns, which is a designated free speech zone. Free speech is at 9 p.m. though, and essentially, you know, we were working to moving over there. We hadn't done it yet, but we weren't doing anything. We weren't making music. We weren't being rude. Mic check. You got the mug shots. Anyways, so they wanted us to move to the GC lawn. They weren't necessarily specifying why we couldn't be congregating where we were. They didn't say that we were doing anything that we shouldn't have been doing, but essentially we had to leave or we were going to get arrested, whatever that means. So Lieutenant Torres, who I believe was the commanding officer at the time, he was coming up to people. He came up to me and specifically asked me to try to get people to move. Now I told him in as respectful a manner as I could that if the group was moving, I would move, but I'm not going to tell the group to move because I don't, you know, people congregate at the Deuxième Maison pits all the time, so I don't see why we had to move. But the group did decide to leave, and Phil Ander took a megaphone and was announcing that we were going to leave. He said, you know, something to the extent that the cops want us to leave and they want us to go to the GC lawn, so we're going to move. He also said, though, that if we aren't happy with what happened today, we should speak to the administrators. Now, he was saying this on a megaphone. Lieutenant Torres left my side and went to go confront Phil about the use of the megaphone. So he went, told Phil not to use the megaphone. Phil put the megaphone down and immediately initiated the people's microphone. I think it was the use of the people's microphone that set Lieutenant Torres over the edge. But essentially, he used the people's microphone and started repeating exactly what he said the first time. The cops wanted us to leave. They wanted us to go to the GM pits. I mean, the GM lawn. And if we weren't happy with what we did, what we saw that day, that we should contact the administrators. As this was going on, as the people's microphone was being used, Lieutenant Torres stepped away from Phil and called the cops over saying, it's time, and he motioned them like this with his hand like that, calling them over. At that point, Phil was grabbed by Lieutenant Torres. Derek was also standing in front of me, and a police officer came from behind him and slapped some cuffs on him from behind. He wasn't even paying attention, didn't know there was a police officer behind him. In fact, most of the people didn't even know the police were coming in because they were engaged in the people's microphone. At that point, you know, I had a camera with me and I was trying to film as much as possible. I was following Derek, so I missed most of the arrests. After Phil and Derek got arrested, I thought it was over. I thought that they were just going to arrest those two people and it was done. But you know, I found out rather quickly that up to 7 people were arrested, and we called them the FIU 7.
Thank you. And what were they arrested for?
I'm not exactly sure. When they were first taken into custody, they were being held at the FIU containment center or detainment center, whatever you want to call it, at PG5. And we were told that they were being held for unlawful assembly. The charges have been changed. I don't know what they are exactly, but you know, they're in this building behind us, and I'm really sorry, guys. I wish you weren't.
What does Occupy Miami mean to you?
Occupy Miami Miami to me is like a candle in the darkness. You know, it's a light where everywhere else there's ignorance and confusion. Now, Occupy Miami is about raising consciousness. It's about waking people up to what's going on. Things aren't right. We know things aren't right, but we have to start admitting it to each other. We can't just keep it bottled up inside and say, oh, I know things aren't right, but I'm not going to complain. No, it's time to complain. Because you know what? The people who work in this building, the people who work in this government, they're our employees, you know? They're public servants. And they swear when they take their oath of office to uphold the Constitution from enemies domestic or foreign. And we have a lot of domestic enemies. A lot of them are in government. A lot of them are sending our young men and women overseas to kill people in other countries. And a lot of them here are planning, you know, some really nasty stuff. You know, with the passing of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and Obama signing it into law, basically giving the military the power, police powers, you know, giving the military the right to come in and arrest and kidnap anyone who's a suspected terrorist. Now, where's that list come from? It's, you know, some bureaucrat has a private little list that he doesn't have to share with anyone, and no one has to double check. And once he gives the order, you know, people are going to start disappearing. So that's why Occupy Miami means to me. Occupy Miami is an attempt to wake people up before it's too late. I hope it's not too late.
Thank you. And your name?
I'm Prem Barbosa.
Thank you, Prem. Beautiful.